President Trump's sweeping tariff announcement. Initially, that included Mexico. We're now getting those tariffs here postponed for a month, but tariffs that are expected to be enacted still on Canada and China. What's the potential impact here for the American manufacturing sector? For that, we want to bring in Tim Fiore. He's ISM Manufacturing Business Survey Committee Chair. And Tim, let's start there, and then we'll get into the data that was released this morning. What are the implications here for the manufacturing sector when it comes to these tariff threats?
Oh, this is really good that they've delayed it. Very good. Really good news. I mean, this is breaking real time. So this is not my first interview this morning. My prior interview was a lot different than this one. We're not big supporters of tariffs, primarily because it clogs up the supply chain and it adds costs and it takes money out of consumers' pockets and it puts it somewhere else. So, and tariffing your two closest trading partners, Canada and Mexico, is a really big deal. Really confusing. The other thing that happened with the tariffs is that they're not allowing duty drawback. So if 50% of the value of a car coming in from Canada has U.S. product on it, right now the intention is to tariff that 50% too. So, and that's very unusual. I'm not even sure that that's lawful, and it doesn't make any sense. So what you're really doing is you're incentivizing Canadian manufacturers, which are U.S. manufacturers too, to not buy U.S. products. So it doesn't make a ton of sense. So and if we had duty drawback, although it's an administrative pain, there's a lot of bureaucracy that goes with that, and it's slow in getting your money back, but it does resolve issues. So, because generally you only want to tariff stuff value add. You want to tariff the value add that occurs in another country, not your own stuff that you ship there and it comes back. And we have that problem in Mexico and in Canada with stuff crossing the border multiple times, mainly Canada, but also to some extent in Mexico. And remember, I mean, a lot of what's been going on here in Mexico over the last couple of years is to try to get away from tariffs that are happening in China.
Right.
So, and then to take that after you've made an investment, put a factory in or hired a supplier to make stuff in Mexico, and now you're going to tariff it, it defeats the purpose. So good news, just heard, not sure how official it is, but it sounds like they've decided to delay for a month the tariff imposition, at least in Mexico. And I think that's a very positive thing. Let's get on with the discussions with China, which are, to me, are the biggest discussions.
Well, Tim, let's talk about what those discussions might look like then, because there's this big question mark about whether or not this is a negotiation tactic from the Trump administration or if this is real. When it comes to the China question, do you view it as a negotiation with China, or are we really going to see some pain here?
I think in the normal world, it's not a negotiating tactic with China. This has been going on now for 6 years since the last Trump administration, and he had the courage to stand up and say, hey, this isn't fair. And it hasn't been fair. And I mean, it's been fair to the American consumer, not the American worker. And it hasn't been fair to American businesses because when you're making stuff over there, many times you lose your IP, as you guys know. So, I think that the real issue is China, and China's doing a lot of things here to protect themselves. Some of the things they've done is it looks like they may have done some pre-buy to avoid their own counter tariffs in December and January this year. You'll see that with our import number being up and our new export order number improving. So, and most of that came from China, either from stimulus or from people trying to get product in before there's a counter tariff on it. So, but I think the USMCA issue, work that out. There are two partners. We're integrated in a lot of areas, electronics, automotive, obviously, the energy markets, the steel markets, we're integrated with them. So, let's not destroy that, because that's a competitive advantage for North America, including the American worker.
Tim, what are you hearing, just more broadly speaking, from these industry executives just about their outlook right now under the Trump administration? Here we are a few weeks in. Some of these policies clearly has been a little bit more aggressive in his action and his rhetoric here when it comes to trade. How are they then factoring that into their outlook, to their strategy then over the next several months?
So, we knew that the Trump administration would be disruptive, and we knew there would be a lot of feints. I don't think there's any real surprise here. The business community is positive about this administration. They see the reduction of regulations, the more business-friendly environment, positivity here on the Tax Cut and Jobs Act staying in place after 2025. That's all positive. This other stuff is very confusing. I don't think you probably, if you talk to 10 CEOs, Fortune 100 companies, they'd all say that they are not supportive of tariffs. And then the question becomes, what is this for? Is this for budget improvement? to be able to extend the Tax Cut Act, to be able to fund stuff at the border? Or is this really to stop migrants and illegal drugs from coming into the border? It's not clear. And that's one of the issues with the Trump administration. Sometimes it's not always what you hear. But I would say, President, what this was they were not really prepared to deploy these tariffs. Like I said, no duty drawback sends a huge message. And you saw at the last minute, I think on Friday, they reduced the tariff on Canadian oil to 10%. Now that Canadian oil it sells a lot cheaper in the U.S. than West Texas Intermediate. So what they really did is they just brought the price of that oil up to equal West Texas Intermediate. And then we do get a lot of petrol products from Mexico too. So I think this whole thing around what's good for all of us and what's good for America, and I think we got a month now to figure that out. I think Trump has clearly said, I'm going to do it. He said he's doing it, and now he's going to pause it. So we're making progress, I think.
All right, thank you so much for joining us, Tim. Really appreciate it.